Well, thank you very much for joining us on this edition of the Expert Corner on Business Foresight. Now, this is the program that gives you details on just how you can stay afloat in business. Now, a very interesting concept we have today, and we'll be talking to Dr. Federico Fioretto. He is a specialized sustainability management systems trainer, and also a leader in business, originally from Italy, and has been a key figure in the Young African Leadership Initiative, which is the Obama-led program that trains young entrepreneurs in Africa at the Kenyatta University. And now, if you're part of the Global Entrepreneurship Summit, then you must have heard a little more about YALI. Now, Dr. Fioretto will also be talking to us about an interesting book he's written about ethics in business and how you can also, practically put into practice some of the things that you borrow from class or the things that you learn and put them in perspective when you're doing business. Now, much of that. My name is Zawadi Mudibo. Remember, the hashtag is BizForesight. Thank you so much, Dr. Fioretto.
Thank you so much for your welcome.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now, tell us a little more about Dr. Federico Fioretto.
Well, it's a long story and I will make it short. But actually, I've been a businessman and entrepreneur for half of my working life, which now sums up to about 30 years. And at a certain point, I decided to quit as an entrepreneur and to go full-time into coaching and training about personal development. And I was very much involved in conflict transformation, human relation, that kind of stuff. At a point along my career, I discovered that actually there was a very good integration between business competence that I had and the touch for human relationship and conflict management that I had, and that was about sustainability. So then I integrated all the parts of my professional career, and I became very much focused on sustainability and sustainable leadership, which is pretty much 100% of my activity today. So that's
now, reading a little more about your profile, talking about your training at Cambridge and also the Harvard Law School. Tell us about your training, professional training, in relation to what you do today. Is it really in line, or something that grew out of passion?
No, it's very much in line, because actually I was trained at Harvard in sustainability management systems. And that's a training that I took pretty recently. I think I was 48 when I took it. And it was just because I had been, into that hands-on, and I wanted to have more formal training. I wanted to learn more the research that was behind that. So I wanted to get into the best place to learn about that. And that's why I went to Harvard in Cambridge to study. So my background in law actually dates back to the regular university training when I was young. And I was trained as a lawyer, but as a business lawyer, and then I implemented it into my business life. I was a second generation entrepreneur, so I was already kind of on tracks.
Now, let's talk about the journey you've had, particularly in relation to your visit to Kenya.
Yeah.
This is probably your second time officially to be in Kenya.
Yes.
About 12 weeks ago, when you first came in under the yearly program.
Yes.
Tell us a little more about the reason behind your coming as a trainer, and how it's turned out to be today as you also undertake many other trainings.
Yes. Well, actually, the reason behind my coming was I was invited. So it's not very hard to understand. But the experience I had was amazing. Actually, I had the opportunity to train young leaders from 14 countries in East Africa. A lot of them were Kenyans, but not only. And coming from a very old continent, what was amazing was the enthusiasm, the energy and the dynamism that I found here in young African leaders, in young Kenyans. And I had the opportunity to touch the entrepreneurship that is, its potential, the potential that you have over here. That's why, since I had made some good acquaintances on my time here as a Yali trainer, I was very happy to accept the invitation to extend, the scope of my presence here. And since then, I've been collaborating with some local entrepreneurs, amazing people. I would very much like to have them working with me in Europe, actually, because they're very competent, very dynamic, very far-sighted. So I see there's a lot of opportunities here to work on the direction of sustainability and ethics in business. And specifically, I think that since there is so much yet to be developed, it's a wonderful opportunity to start in a sustainable way. So in a way, we have done a mess in our continent with too much unconscious development that we have done in the past, and now we are rushing to make it sustainable. Since here there is still a lot to develop, it's wonderful that there is such a commitment and an activity such as that of WTV to foster a sustainable development.
Now, how sustainable is sustainable? I'm looking at a culture coming from the nation of Kenya and Africa in general, are people that are very innovative, very ready to make those daring risks in business, to come up with interesting concepts. But we've had the lag, and that is a lack of adequate financing to actualize that entrepreneurship mind. Now, with the training at Yali, what next for these entrepreneurs? I come with a brilliant idea, very good for business, but I do not have the financial muscle to put it into practice.
Actually, sustainability is basically a matter of balance. So the first thing I would tell you, if you don't have a big financial muscle, would be start with the muscle that you have. And that is starting sustainable. Then I'm sure that if the business idea is good, you will build up your muscles, or either you will find someone very much willing to put some muscle in your idea. Very often people think they have a very good business idea and they just think big and not feasible. So they just quit before starting because they say, oh, I don't have the means, or I don't have the financial strength to do this. But finance is never a problem when the business idea is good. It's just that maybe you have to start small, and then you demonstrate by your, no matter how small result, that it works.
The books, talking about the books that you've been able to write as part of the process to mentor young entrepreneurs, or really entrepreneurs and people who want to make a difference in business. Tell us about your publications and what content should our viewers expect?
Yes, well actually it's pretty much a sequence. It's involuntary. It just came out like this. The first that I mentioned is the second last, and it's called It's Good Business to Do Good with Business. Actually started as a project with one of my clients, pharmaceutical industry, homeopathic pharmaceutical industry, as a research for a new value charter for the company. And then I developed it into a book. And there I start from the principles and the vows that the disciples of Mahatma Gandhi had to utter in order to fight non-violently for the independence of India. And I saw in them, and I transformed and I interpreted them into the modern ethics principle of a successful, sustainable company. And you would see there that how much it fits, but actually not willing only to talk about spirituality, ethics, and values. I put a lot of examples there in almost in any page of successful, sustainable companies. And this is the first one. The most recent one, which actually was launched in Nairobi exactly the other day, so this is my way of honoring Kenya entrepreneurship mindset, is called Sustainable Leadership, the CASE method. And the CASE method actually is an original method that I have developed in order to give a practical way to implement ethics and sustainability into the decision making of organizations, business, public administration. I do a lot of work in healthcare organizations, for instance. And there is a way in which a leader of an organization or the leadership of an organization can take into consideration all of their stakeholders in their decision-making process. And stakeholder engagement and stakeholder management is really the key to success of business today. So that's why I'm very keen on working on both sides, on a way inspiring and talking about high values to develop a wide vision for the organization or for the business, and on the other hand being practical, hands-on. How can I drive my decision making, my investment making, my priority setting processes along the lines of sustainability? And that's where the case method comes in. And that was specifically actually the training that I was giving at the YALE.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Now, you mentioned something very important about some of the key reasons that bring about growth in business. And your observation of the Kenyan market is there's need to have more synergies and networking. And that brings me to an interesting concept, the business networking chapters that we have across the globe, and particularly in Kenya, where business leaders are able to interact, share ideas, and do business together. What is your perception, or what is your view of this kind of organizations? Do they really add value to business, or is there another way you can look at it?
No, I think they give good opportunities. Every time people get together, opportunities arise. What is very important, and again, I'm not specifically expert on the organization you're talking about, what is really important is that people have really the opportunity to gather around projects, to do things together. So even if a conference, for instance, is a very good thing, I think it is important that people can split into smaller groups, discuss specific projects, share ideas. Something which is happening in the world of business is not only in Africa, it happens everywhere, is at times some kind of jealousy. Like, I can share some ideas with you, but the best one I will keep for me. Okay, this is pretty much a close-minded way of looking at things. So in this kind of situation, if there is some kind of stimulus that can be given to the sharing more in depth of the potential that people have, then something new can come out. And it's like planting seeds. When you plant a seed, you have to tend to it, you have to water it, you have to wait for some time, but then something comes out. If you just look at the soil, like it happens in many conferences, you just have some soil and you look at it. If you don't plant anything in it, nothing is going to come out. So sharing, but putting a seed in there. So what is the purpose of us meeting together? What can we do together? How can we share in depth? That's
my last question. If you were to do this all over again, what would you do differently?
Oh, meaning what? Because I don't know. I think every time you do something, it's an experience. I'm very happy of the meetings that I'm having here. I'm sending back home to my family, which I long for, excited feedback about the people that I'm meeting here. So if I could, I would like to see some better traffic management, so it's less hectic to run about Nairobi.
Well, thank you very much for being kind enough.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Well, we've been talking to Dr. Federico Fioretto, who is a specialized sustainability trainer, and also talking to us about how you can do business in a better way. And one of his publications, the first book, he says, it is good to do good with business. Those are some of the publications and those are some of the books that he's written as part of his mentorship program across the globe. He is part of the key trainers of the global YALI program, which is the Young Africa Leadership Initiative, which was spearheaded by the US President Barack Obama to train and mentor young entrepreneurs, specifically in developing nations, and Africa, Kenya being a specific focal point for that. That has been Business Foresight. The hashtag is BizForesight, and that is our expert of the day. My name is Zawadi Mudibo. Until next week, see you then. Bye-bye.